Have you ever looked around and wondered why some people just seem to get ahead financially while so many of us feel like we're just spinning our wheels? Well, today we're going to unpack the core ideas from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a book that honestly has completely flipped the script on money for millions of people.
So the whole book is built around this really fascinating setup. The author, Robert Kiyosaki, grew up with two dads, his real dad and his best friend's dad. And they were polar opposites when it came to money. I mean, totally different worlds. And that contrast is what creates this incredible financial education.
And this is where you really see the clash. Poor Dad, who was a highly respected academic, always said things like, "The love of money is the root of all evil." But Rich Dad, the self-made entrepreneur, he had a different take. He'd say, no, the lack of money is the root of all evil. These two clashing ideas basically forced the author to really think for himself and decide which path made more sense. So let's get a clearer picture of these guys. Poor Dad was brilliant. He had a PhD, believed in getting good grades, and claiming the ladder to a safe, secure job. Rich Dad, on the other hand, was an 8th grade dropout, but he went on to become a super successful entrepreneur, one of the wealthiest guys in Hawaii. So you've got two completely different blueprints for life, leading to wildly different results.
Now, Poor Dad's advice, and it's the advice most of us get, it sounds safe, but it often leads people right into a trap. It's a cycle that millions of us get stuck in, a cycle that Rich Dad bluntly called the rat race.
Does this whole sequence sound a little too familiar? You go to school, you land a good job, and hey, your paycheck starts to grow. Awesome. So what do? You upgrade your life, right? A bigger house, a nicer car. But here's the catch. Your expenses shoot up too. We're talking taxes, mortgage payments, credit card bills, all of it. So now you've got to work even harder just to cover everything. It's this endless loop of running faster and faster on a treadmill, but never actually going anywhere. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures what the rat race feels like. That next paycheck, that promotion you're chasing, it's the carrot. It's always just out of reach, keeping you pulling the cart forward. You feel like you're making progress, but you never actually get to eat the carrot. You're just working tirelessly to get someone else, the cart owner, to their destination.
So what keeps us stuck on this thing? Well, it boils down to two incredibly powerful emotions. First up is fear. The fear of not being able to pay the bills. That's the thing that shoves you out the door to work every single morning. But then, as soon as you get paid, desire kicks in. You see that new gadget, that amazing vacation, and you just have to have it. Fear pushes you and desire pulls you, and together they keep you running in that cage.
Okay, so how do you get out? How do you escape the race? Rich Dad had one incredibly simple, totally game-changing lesson that shifts your entire perspective on how money actually works. This is, without a doubt, the core lesson of the whole book.
Most of us learn the textbook definition of an asset, something like a resource with economic value that is expected to provide a future benefit. I mean, it sounds smart and all, but for the average person, it's kind of vague. It doesn't really help you make decisions.
But Rich Dad, he just cut right through all that jargon with a definition so simple, it's brilliant. An asset is anything that puts money in your pocket, period. And a liability? That's anything that takes money out of your pocket. That's the whole game. It's all about which way the cash is flowing.
Let's look at how this plays out. Assets. Think things like a rental property that pays you every month, or stocks that pay dividends. They generate income that flows into your accounts. Liabilities, on the other hand, like your car payment or your mortgage, create expenses. They suck money out of your accounts. The rich make it their mission to acquire assets. The rest of us, we tend to acquire liabilities that we think are assets. Now, this all sounds great in theory, but what does it actually look like? Well, Rich Dad taught this exact lesson to two 9-year-old kids, and they immediately went out and built their very first asset, literally from nothing.
Their idea was just pure genius. They saw the guy at the corner store tossing out old comic books, so they asked if they could have them for free. They collected all these comics and opened up a library in an empty room in one of their houses. They charged the other neighborhood kids 10 cents to come in and read for as long as they wanted. They even hired one of their sisters to be the librarian. Just like that, they had created a business, an asset, that was putting money in their pockets, even when they weren't physically there. They weren't working for money anymore. Their asset was working for them. And that little story leads right into the next huge lesson. You have to mind your own business. Now, this doesn't mean you have to quit your day job. What it means is that while your profession pays the bills, your business is what builds your wealth.
Your job is your income, your business is your asset column. You have to focus on building that asset column on the side.
So, what kind of things should be going into that asset column? We're talking about things like businesses you own that don't need you there 24/7, stocks, bonds, real estate that actually generates income, and even intellectual property like royalties from a book. But notice what's not on this list. Your personal car, your own house, they're not on here. Why? Because every month they take money out of your pocket.
This right here is a massive mindset shift. Instead of working overtime to get a loan for a fancy new car, the rich focus on building an asset first. Then they use the cash flow that the asset generates to pay for the luxury. Think about that. The asset buys the car, not their 9 to 5 paycheck. The luxury item becomes a reward for making a smart financial move. All right, we've talked about what assets to buy. We've talked about the right mindset, but what is the single most powerful asset you could ever have? The one that makes everything else possible? It's the one thing nobody can ever take away from you: your mind. Your financial intelligence, your understanding of how money really works, how to spot an opportunity, how to solve financial problems, that is your greatest asset. It's what lets you build the machine that makes money, instead of just being a gear inside someone else's machine. This quote just says it all. I mean, think about all those stories you hear about lottery winners who are completely broke just a few years later. They got a ton of money, but they didn't have the financial knowledge to manage it, keep it, and grow it. Your financial IQ is what builds lasting wealth. And that really brings us to the one question you have to ask yourself. When you look at your own life, your own finances, are you working for money? Or have you started to build a system where your money is working hard for you? According to Rich Dad, how you answer that one question can make all the difference in the world.